Yeah.
दरवाजा
Mahesh, it is getting disconnected automatically. It happened twice so far.
I'm sorry, Nandan, can you reach out to Dr. Rao and see what's happening? And can we get started?
Go ahead, Mahesh.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Charcha 2021 panel on strengthening first mile governance, which is co-hosted by the Nudge Forum and the Omidyar Network India, which is part of and this session is part of the Equitable Cities track. My apologies for the session starting late. We had some technical issues. I'm going to request the audience members to mute their connection so that there's no background noise. My name is Mahesh Krishnamurthy, and I work at Omidyar Network India. ONI is a philanthropic venture capital fund whose objective is to help every Indian achieve a meaningful life. Our target audience is the NHB, or the next 500 million. These are Indians whose family income is less than 25,000 rupees per month. We follow a dual checkbook model. Namely, we fund startups as well as nonprofits. We have actually funded several nonprofits for many years who are working to address the challenges of urbanization, including the eGov Foundation, Janagraha, and WRI. Let me take a few minutes to frame today's discussion, as our audience has a variable degree of exposure to the subject, and I will also introduce our panelists. About 50 Indian cities have populations greater than 1 million each. 3 urban agglomerations, Mumbai, Delhi, and Kolkata, have populations greater than 10 million each. More than half the countries of the world have smaller populations, including well-known countries such as Greece, Israel, Portugal, and all the Scandinavian ones. The percentage of Indians living in urban areas has increased from 17% in the 1951 census to double that number today, and India is expected to become majority urban in the next 10 years and possibly sooner. Now, in a modern economy, cities are very important. They tend to be economic powerhouses. As an example, the city where I live, Mumbai, accounts for 1/3 of India's direct tax collection. Not just that, cities provide greater freedoms and opportunities to their residents, which end up making them centers of social, political, and cultural activities. Given our national history, villages have a disproportionate role in our national imagination, which we articulate in statements such as India lives in her villages. However, going forward, the progress of India will become intimately tied to the performance of our cities. In a 2019 Global Livability Index by The Economist magazine, Mumbai and Delhi ranked 118 and 119 out of 140 world cities. Stating the obvious, this performance is unsurprising. Our own government's 2021 Livability Index sees Bengaluru as the top city with a score of 67 out of a maximum of 100. Interestingly, in one subcomponent of this study, citizens' perception, the highest ranked city in the less than 1 million population category is Sholapur in Maharashtra with a score of 89, and the lowest ranked was Amritsar at 62. Honestly, I do not know how to interpret this, because it seems that our citizens' perception of livability seems greater than other objective metrics of livability. Now, in objective terms, Indian cities, I believe, are not great places to live, even for their richest citizens, let alone for their less well-off brethren. In Mumbai, the poor live in slums and the rich live in small, expensive apartments with limited access to what would be considered basic civic amenities in most parts of the world: playground, libraries, parks, functional footpaths, quick access to healthcare, noise control, etc. The floods in Chennai has shown how urban development in India has taken place without regard to topography. From an urbanization perspective, Bengaluru is better known for its rapid growth over the last 20 years, which has strained the capacities of the city and its legendary traffic than for its livability. In a recent report, 22 of the world's 30 most polluted cities were in India. Across the country, our government schools and hospitals are increasingly used only by citizens who cannot afford alternatives. More recently, we saw the effects of the pandemic both on the residents of our cities and the migrants who work there. Now, we can go on, but it is probably fair to say that considerable improvement is possible in the way our cities address the needs of their residents. Sadly, these issues are not new, and things seem to have gotten worse rather than better over the last several decades. In order to address these issues in a foundational manner, India enacted the 74th Constitutional Amendment in 1993 to strengthen urban local governments to be more responsive to the needs of their citizens. It proposed the creation of urban local bodies, municipal corporation for a large urban area, municipal council for small urban areas, and Nagar Panchayat for transitional areas. It also recommended the creation of ward sabhas to encourage the local administration to respond to needs of the locality as well as to engage with their citizens. The directive principles for this amendment also recommended decentralizing 18 different functions, including town planning, urban poverty alleviation, slum improvement, etc., to urban local bodies. So far, so good. But what has been the track record on implementation? Without giving out the plot, in one word, it has been poor. Praja, an NGO, created the Urban Governance Index through a broad-based 3-year qualitative process to evaluate structural empowerment of the cities by the state government. It tried to measure how empowered the local elected representatives and city administration were to fulfill the needs of their residents, how empowered the citizens were to demand that their needs be met, and finally, whether the city was on a sound financial footing to meet the needs of its residents. The top-ranked state was Odisha with 57 points out of a possible 100, and the bottom was Nagaland with 13. My home state, Andhra Pradesh, which was at the median, received 33 points, essentially a failing grade. Not even a single state has devolved all 18 functions, even after 28 years after passage of the 74th Amendment. A more easily understandable factoid: 54% of our cities do not generate sufficient revenues to meet even the salary costs of their local government. Now, today's panel is titled Strengthening First Mile Governance. What we're trying to address is strengthening the governance mechanisms of our cities or urban local bodies so that our cities become more livable. It's focused on systematic reform to improve urban governance as opposed to addressing the symptoms. Now, with that context, let me introduce our stellar panel. First is Ms. Poonam Mahajan. Ms. Mahajan is a second-term member of the Lok Sabha, representing the Mumbai North Central constituency that, for those familiar with Mumbai, covers Bandra and the surrounding areas. She belongs to the Bharatiya Janata Party, and she has specifically raised issues in the parliament relating to Mumbai. Examples: rehabilitation of slum dwellers, rejuvenation of the Methi River, about suburban rail, rehabilitation of street vendors. Now, in addition, Ms. Mahajan also serves as a mentor to Swachhalaya, a non-profit organization that aims to improve cleanliness and hygiene in Mumbai. Dr. K. Rajeshwar Rao. Dr. Rao belongs to the 1988 batch of the civil services, the IAS, and is currently at the Niti Aayog as Special Secretary in charge of managing urbanization. He was the chief of the National Urban Health Mission and prepared the groundwork for the Prime Minister Jan Arogya Yojana. Mr. Abhishek Singh. Mr. Singh is a 1995 batch IAS officer with special expertise with regard to the use of technology for improving governance. He's presently posted as CEO of MyGov with additional charge of other digital initiatives. MyGov is the citizen engagement platform of the Government of India and enables participative governance. And finally, we have Mr. Aizaz Dhebar. Mr. Dhebar became the mayor of Raipur, the capital of Chhattisgarh, in 2020. Raipur, a city with a population of over 1 million, ranks quite highly in the Government of India Livability Index. He is a member of the Indian National Congress. Now, we are going to start our session. If you have any questions, please enter them in the Q&A panel. I intend to pick as many of these as time permits. We also plan to have a couple of audience polls at roughly the half an hour and 1 hour point of this conversation. So first of all, dear panelists, let me start with a couple of high-level questions. My first question is, what is your perspective on life in an Indian city? Was the picture that I painted too pessimistic? Ms. Mahajan, why don't we start with you? Ms. Mahajan, I think you're live. Okay, I think she has dropped off. Dr. Rao, would you like to share your views on this? Yeah, we seem to continue to be having technical problems. Mr. Singh, do you feel the picture that
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Absolutely. Do you think the picture that
you did paint a very pessimistic picture, I must say, but I would like to look at it from a different perspective. Like, it is true that our cities need to improve a lot. We have issues like pollution, we have issues like traffic, and we have issues of congestion. But one should look at the trajectory on which we are in. See, like the way urbanization has grown in India, the amount of people who are migrating from the rural areas to the urban areas, the pressure on the urban cities have gone up. So while a lot of measures have been taken by the cities in trying to improve the amenities, but still, while they might compare to be better off than the rural areas, but when we compare it to the benchmarks internationally, or when we compare it to the expectations of the citizens, they fall short of the expectations. So when we look at the reasons because of which we are where we are, number one, as you rightly pointed out, there are two dimensions to the whole thing. One is that the city municipal governments are very short of resources. And when we talk of that, they're short of resources primarily because the reforms that have been required in the property tax collections and in ensuring that sufficient resources are devolved to the urban local bodies, there has been some progress there, but a lot more can be done. In fact, every city which, if you look at a city like Mumbai, they have a corpus of like 40,000 crores plus. So they have some cities have a lot of resources, but it's not that the other smaller cities cannot mobilize the same amount of resources. The second challenge, of course, have been in the level of capacities. Like urban local bodies, the 74th Amendment did bring in reforms. Elected members were there. We are one of the high-performing mayors here today. But by and large, across the country, if you look at the capacities that exist within the elected members of the urban local bodies, we need to do a lot more in order to train them, in order to give them the right skills, in order to give them the right support at the bureaucratic level. That needs to be further strengthened and provided. Because once that is done, then we'll be able to provide much better solutions to the problems that we have. If you look at the initiatives that have been taken, like for the Smart Cities project or the Amrut project, like the Smart Cities project, under which 100 cities are being developed as smart cities, and a lot of initiatives have been taken, the integrated command and control structures, the management of traffic, the management of waste management. A lot has been done in many of these cities, and some of the examples that we see, like if you see Indore topping the cleanest city year after year. You mentioned about Nagaland. I worked in Kohima, but if you look at the level of improvement that even Kohima has gone up, it's a different matter that it ranks lower in the various indices. because for various reasons the elections to the local bodies have not been held. But if you look at the urban local management and the life in the city in Kohima, it will be much better than maybe a city like Patna or a city like Dhanbad. So that's also one needs to look at. The Amrut cities, the 500 Amrut cities, which have taken up a lot of projects with regard to improvement of infrastructure, with regard to drainage, with regard to garbage collection. A lot has been done in the last few years. And the amount of technology which is being used for better management of the city's functions, so whether it's use of automated challans. The cities like Delhi have experimented in that. The use of technologies for managing garbage collection and ensuring that citizens are able to report whether the garbage is not collected on that. The waste management, the waste management rules which were notified in 2016, that has led to a lot of initiatives being taken in various cities for plastic waste management. So what I would like to just mention is that while painting a pessimistic picture from a totally outsider perspective is all right, and especially with regard to ensuring that the cities need to move up, especially with regard to expectations of citizens. But the initiatives that have been taken in the last few years under the Smart Cities Mission, the Amrut Mission, and under the use of technology for better management of cities or introduction of better transport like the metros which have come up in various cities, this will ultimately lead to helping the cities reduce the load that they have on various civic amenities and make the cities more livable.
Perfect. No, thank you, Mr. Singh. I mean, you're really pointing out that while we have a long way to go, the glass is truly half full, and we're trying quite hard to fill it. Ms. Mahajan, is my view too pessimistic?
Thankfully, I lost you in between with lost in translation and connection, but I
Sure.
will, through the answers, take you as an optimistic person because I'm myself an optimistic person, which is questionable for people to look at a politician. But I, being a young member of parliament and part of the policy making system in this country, yes, we do have challenges, and who do not have challenges? But answering and making those challenges work is our responsibility. I have no idea what your question was, so could you please repeat it
Sure.
because I lost in that.
No problem, ma'am. I basically painted a picture of the state of life in Indian cities, starting with global rankings to
I
some
did
of the
see that.
problems with pollution, the problems with the well-off citizens completely abandoning public services, etc. And so my question is, am I painting a very pessimistic picture?
No, no, I take it in a different way. You are showing a little realistic view, which we all have to accept too. And Mr. Singh actually gave you the problems are created and has been seen. He gave you actually the solutions, how we are actually solving the problems. I think it's nothing about pessimistic and optimistic. It's all about we need to see the real India. We need to accept the reality. And we as the government or anybody else, we want to give our best. But at the end, as everybody talk about the city of Mumbai, and you introduced me as the member of parliament from Mumbai North Central, which is not only part of Bandra. Bandra is just maybe 5% of Mumbai North Central constituency. But I have the maximum slums in my constituency. When you're landing the Mumbai airport, the slums surrounding Mumbai airport is actually part of my constituency. So when you look at the western side of my constituency, which have plush apartments from Bandra to Juhu, but when you look towards from Powai to Kurla to Chembur and Bandra East, that's the real Mumbai which I'm also working with. I just want to say certain things in these things. When I started working with as contesting from Mumbai constituency, I realized Mumbai as a city has a lot of load. And I'm not talking for a city of Mumbai, but Mumbai as a city has a lot of load. People look at Mumbai and Delhi as their ultimate journey and ultimate achievement in their lives. What we need to do, and as Dr. Singh actually very nicely placed it, we need to empower what we are talking about our first mile government to reach to the last mile person. And that's how Amrit Mission reaching out to smart cities. Till the time we don't empower the foundation of this country, as you started speaking about this India was living in villages, and that's how we started. I think independence movement, the freedom movement started with Jan Bhagidari, people getting together, local people, everybody started working and got into that achievement. Even for us in India, more discussing about city like Mumbai and Delhi, which have different problems to sort out with kind of infrastructure which we needed, looking beyond as a vision of infrastructure. What we have to create is create for next 50 years. Yes, these are the problems which we are facing. But what we have to look at is those last mile local governments. We need to empower them. We need to create the awareness. We need to have partnership with people. That's how I do it as a member of parliament, to work towards it. Till the time we don't have the partnership, we don't create that awareness. Someone was talking about garbage collection. You know, in city of Mumbai, Mumbai Municipal Corporation, there might be 500 things, we can do it much better. But when we talk about garbage collection, we look at slums and we see how it's not happening. But I have faced a lot of problems in societies also. The problems are that how do we do that? We are not aware about it. Very nice, literate, smart people. I think somewhere we lack in awareness, or we lack in that communication is very important. So I don't see that as a pessimistic view. It's a realist view where we need to use technology, vision, empathy, human understanding, that a person need to be aware as a citizen of India, me as a policymaker, you as a network which reach out to people. Till the time, I remember in my 2014 election, I said I want to do a PPP model, public politician partnership. So let me just get this on this idea. Can we do a public policy partnership? People understand what the policies are made for. There are n numbers of policy. These are only to reach to the last mile, to the last person in this country. But are we actually connecting it? The administration, politician, networks like you, are we really coming together? Are we just giving each other a pessimistic chai pe charcha conversations? But are we really helping each other out to make that happen? So I think we have enough, and I look at glass always half full, because that's how we need to work on. We have billions of problems. We have such a huge population. We are not looking, we are still working, gutter kaise hoga. And I'm telling you, as a member of parliament, it's not only from slums. And I really give credit to people living in slums. They know how to use the local government. Sometimes people like us who are aware, living in good apartments, as you've said, don't know what is the job of a corporator, councillor, a mayor, and a member of parliament. That even awareness is required. So we are not coming on the same platform. So positively, if we looking at certain things, we can work. Then we need to work on climate change. We need to work on a lot of other things. When you're saying India is going to be completely in a larger number, which we study, is going to be an urban country. We'll have less land for agriculture. We'll have more stomachs to fill. We have to learn a lot from Singapore model. So there is a lot, but I look at it more positively. And I think through this questions also, which I see it, we would love to connect. And that's how we have to do as administration, policymakers, and you, people like you, to come together more optimistically to make that change for this new India.
Thank you, ma'am. Clearly, the fact that we're having this conversation, everybody here is an optimist and wants things to improve. Dr. Rao, your views, is this too pessimistic? Is this realistic?
Yeah, thanks, Mahesh. I don't see any pessimism. What Abhishek mentioned is certain initiatives in the recent times, and you have mentioned certain challenges. And the Honorable Member of Parliament mentioned about the public policy, public politician partnership. But I see urban management as a public-private community partnership. It's a PPCP, where public, the government has a role to play, where the private sector has a role to play, where the community has a role to play. And when we talk about the urban management, we talk about the Delhi, Mumbai, that are typical metro mentality, and also the certain class one cities. But the real challenge, the real urban situation lies with the balance 4,372 cities. They are all tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, where, as a member of parliament has mentioned, that the capacity issue, the awareness to the councillor, what exactly is his role to play, whether he can be very effective within the framework. Those are perhaps the issues. See, everybody talks about the devolution of powers, saying that all the 18 powers have not been devolved. But even assuming that there are 10 major powers have been devolved by more than 12 states, how many urban local bodies are using those powers? It can be the effective utilization of the property tax resources or other municipal resources, or own capacity building. For example, if there is no capacity to a municipal functionary at the city level, he can always take the help of any online resources or any training institutes to develop the capacity. There is no hindrance. But only thing is, perhaps they don't want to use the resources, they don't want to ownership, and not all, but majority of them doing at their own level, and also using very effectively the community resources. In fact, if you strengthen the ward level committee, it can be Mumbai, it can be Delhi, or it can be Nalanda or Nagaland municipalities. The ward committees are strengthened, and where the public participation is there, because this was tried in 1999 in Andhra Pradesh in 32 class 1 cities, where communities, they select the infrastructure, they play a major role in the sanitation and other municipal services. It was very effective. Then there are hundreds of initiatives are there where local capacity has been evolved, local capacity has been identified, and also utilization. So I see it is a very positive thing, but it's like a dil mange more. Urban is anything you do, still there will be a challenge and there will be satisfaction. Our Raipur mayor is there, he will agree with me. 364 days you provide everything, 365th day you don't provide, you will be facing criticism, because people expectations are very high, and people also don't want to many a time take the responsibility, demanding a service, demanding a quality. I think a general awareness should be there, and I strongly feel that there should be counselor app. Abhishek is here, a tech man, and that app should help this counselor. It can be a tier 6 municipality or a metro, where he will have a complete data, complete resources, so that you utilize as a micro governance and give the effective services to the last mile of the requirement. I think technology has a very great role to play, because I look after the urban sector in the Niti Aayog. I could see that large number of towns, there are no urban planning mapping and also urban planning development framework. I think perhaps governance, very demanding public, demanding the quality, and also paying the taxes, property tax and all the taxes, perhaps can improve the situation very drastically. See, very often we always feel that there is no capacity, staff shortages are there, funds are not there. These are all very common things, because I have been in the sector since 1990, dealing with the urban in various stages and patterns. But if you are determined, if you are very effective in your leadership, perhaps you can find a solution at the local level to maximum extent, and you can also become a pressure group to demand certain services, certain sanctions from the state government, because all the 3 tiers of government are extremely keen to provide better services to the people. I thought I just mentioned.
No, thank you for that context, Dr. Rao. And finally, and most importantly, let's go to Mr. Devar. Devar साहब, मेरी हिंदी उतनी खास नहीं है, पर मैं कोशिश करूँगा. आपका क्या ख्याल है? मैंने जो अपने शहरों के बारे में डिस्क्रिप्शन दी, वो रियलिस्टिक है कि पेसिमिस्टिक है कि ऑप्टिमिस्टिक है?
एक बार सवाल थोड़ा फिर से एक बार सवाल एक बार फिर से.
नहीं, मैंने जो अपने शहरों के बारे में डिस्क्रिप्शन दिया ना, वो आपके हिसाब से इज इट अ रियलिस्टिक डिस्क्रिप्शन?
देखिए, जहाँ तक के आप शहरों की बात में जब जो कर रहे हो, वो पूरे तरीके से प्रैक्टिकल है. आपने जो बताया वह भी पूरे तरीके से प्रैक्टिकल है। मैं रायपुर नगर निगम की आपको एक बहुत छोटा सा वो बताता हूँ कि हम लोग जिस शहर में हम यहाँ रह रहे हैं, रायपुर नगर निगम में करीब 20 लाख लोग यहाँ पर रहते हैं। और जहाँ तक कि शहर की बात है, हमारे रायपुर शहर की बात है, हम लोग लगातार किस तरीके से जनता के बीच, जनता के लिए जाके हम काम करें, उनके लिए हम क्या ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम उनको क्या सुविधाएं दें, क्या ज्यादा से ज्यादा हम उनके लिए काम करें, उस पे हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं। मैं एक बात आपको और बताना चाहता हूं, अभी आपका मैं सुन रहा था पूनम महाजन जी का भी और राव साहब का भी, मैं बहुत अच्छे से मैं डिस्कस सुन रहा था। मेरा एक छोटा सा उसमें मेरा एक वो है कि हम लोग अपने अधिकारों को, जब हम अपने अधिकारों का हम लोग बहुत वो बताते हैं कि हमें ये मिलना चाहिए, जनता को हमको ये देना चाहिए, जैसे उन्होंने कहा कि दिल मांगे मोर, सबको अपने अधिकार पता रहते हैं, मगर मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कहीं ना कहीं हमें कर्तव्यों पे भी ज्यादा से ज्यादा हमें फोकस करना चाहिए, जिससे मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि अगर ये पब्लिक में अधिकार से ज्यादा अगर कर्तव्यों पे अगर ज्यादा हम फोकस करेंगे, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो कॉर्पोरेशन हम चला रहे हैं, जो सरकार की कल्पना हम कर रहे हैं, जो हम चाहते हैं कि शहर में रायपुर नगर निगम या फिर जो पब्लिक है उनके बीच में डायरेक्ट कनेक्शन बना रहे, डायरेक्ट उनका काम करता रहे, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हमें अधिकारों के साथ साथ हमें कर्तव्यों का भी उन लोगों को ज्ञान, हमें ज्यादा से ज्यादा उन लोग को हमको शिक्षित करना पड़ेगा कर्तव्यों के लिए भी। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जो बात आप कर रहे हैं सर, जो बात हमारे और पैनलिस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो मुझे लगता है कि इसमें हमें बहुत ज्यादा हमें सफलता मिलेगी।
Badhiya, badhiya. With this, let's have and the point you're making, Mr. Devar, about rights versus responsibilities is clearly an important point. Nandan, can we have a first poll before we get deeper into the conversation?
Do we also have to poll for it?
I don't want to, no, please, I don't want to respond to this honestly, because it will be embarrassing, at least for me.
I have a story of my counselor once that will be also put it forward.
No, please go ahead, ma'am.
No, my counselor was in prison for some time. He's back now. But of course, I do know I'm a counselor.
Do we have the results of the poll? Akash, Nandan? Okay, why don't we continue, and they will present. Perfect. This is excellent. I mean, 60% of the people know who their counselor is, and roughly 40% don't know. To be quite honest, it is much better than what I thought it would be, and that just tells you how ignorant one can be and caught up in one's own mental framework. So now let's dig a little bit deeper. देवर साहब, शुरुआत आपसे करेंगे, क्योंकि आप जो हैं, यू आर एक्चुअली वर्किंग ऑन द ग्राउंड. आपने कब सोचा कि आप महापौर बनेंगे, और बनने की आपकी जर्नी क्या थी? आप कैसे बने रायपुर के महापौर?
देखिए, लगातार मैं कांग्रेस पार्टी के लिए काम कर रहा था, बहुत नीचे से मैंने अपनी शुरुआत की है। अब मैंने देखा है कि लोगों की, जो आदमी, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि बहुत नीचे से, जमीन से ऊपर आता है, तो उसे बहुत सारी समस्याओं का उसको पहले से उसको पता रहता है। अब मैंने अपनी शुरुआत एक काउंसलर के रूप में, एक पार्षद के रूप में, पहले मैंने पार्षद बना, एक मौलाना अब्दुल रऊफ वार्ड है यहाँ पर, उसमें मैंने 46 नंबर वार्ड से मैंने पार्षद बना, पार्षद के रूप में अपनी शुरुआत की। उसके बाद सेकंड टाइम में मुझे महापौर बनने का मुझे सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य का। और जिस तरीके से अभी मैंने पहले ही कहा कि जब महापौर बना तो मुझे पता चला कि यहाँ पर जो लोकल उसमें जो शहर में काम करने के बहुत सारी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, और शहर में जिस तरीके से अभी हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं, अगर मैं बताना चाहूँ तो हम लोग अभी रायपुर शहर में 8वें रैंक पे हमारी रहने लायक हमारा शहर है, 8वें नंबर पे हमारा शहर रहने लायक में है। हम लगातार रायपुर में हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं। और आपने पूछा रायपुर की अगर हम बात करें तो अभी आपको पता है कि जब से मैं महापौर के रूप में जब से मैं बना हूं, तब से मैं कोरोना काल में महापौर के रूप में मेरा कार्यकाल पूरा कोरोना काल में ही रहा है। मगर मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि मैं लगातार, जब बोलते हैं आदमी की मुसीबत में ही आदमी की पहचान होती है कि वो आदमी किस तरीके से काम कर रहा है। मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि ये अपॉर्चुनिटी, ये कोरोना काल की भले लोगों के लिए मुसीबत रही होगी, भले, मगर मेरे लिए अपॉर्चुनिटी थी। मैं कोरोना काल में भी बहुत अच्छा हमारी नगर निगम और स्मार्ट सिटी के द्वारा हम लगातार रायपुर में हम लोग काम करते रहे। और मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि हमने ऐसी ऐसी शुरुआत यहाँ पर की, हमने हॉस्पिटलों का निर्माण कराया, और एक बहुत अच्छी चीज हमने कोरोना काल में की, ऑक्सीजन ऑन व्हील्स, इसकी हम लोग शुरुआत हम लोग रायपुर से की है। हम लोग ने स्ट्रीट ऑन डॉक्टर, यह भी हमने इस अपने कोरोना काल में हमने की है। तो लगातार हम लोग महापौर के रूप में रायपुर में हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं।
In fact, Mahesh, entire during the Corona time, urban sector only took the brunt actually, because majority of the cases were in the towns and cities only, and urban managements have risen to the challenge, and they were very, very effective in providing the services in the last 14-15 months. I fully agree with Raipur Mayor, and there are hundreds of cities and thousands of examples where there was a proactive leadership, and they did very well, including creating awareness about the sanitation. I just wanted to add that.
No, that's fantastic. डेविड साहब, ये जो रायपुर नगर निगम है उसकी और आपकी जो रोल है, ऐसे कौन से फंक्शंस है जो नगर निगम करता है और कौन से फंक्शंस है जो छत्तीसगढ़ राज्य निभाता है?
ऐसे कौन से फंक्शन है?
जैसे जैसे मान लीजिए इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, सैनिटेशन, रोड्स, पुलिस, ये नगर निगम के स्कोप में आते हैं कि छत्तीसगढ़ स्टेट गवर्नमेंट के स्कोप में आते हैं?
नहीं, बाकी फैसिलिटी स्टेट उसकी है, हमारी है, लोकल बॉडी की है। जो लॉ एंड ऑर्डर है वो स्टेट के उसमें आता है, मगर जो बाकी जो फैसिलिटी उसको हम लोग प्रोवाइड करवाते हैं, जो लोकल बॉडी है, नगर निगम।
और आपका जो बजट है ना, उसका कितना पैसा शहर से आता है और कितना राज्य से आता है?
ये बहुत अच्छा सवाल है, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हम लोग टोटल हमारा जो बजट है यहाँ का 2200 करोड़ है, उसमें हमें करीब 30 से 40% हम लोग बेयर करते हैं। हम लोग का राजस्व से, हम लोगों का जो और भी हमारी जो किराए हैं हमें उससे आते हैं। बाकी जो 60% है वो हमें स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से मिलते हैं। 60% जो है वो हमें गवर्नमेंट से प्राप्त होते हैं, चाहे फिर वो चुंगी दर पे हो, चाहे फिर वो और अदर उसमें हो, वो उसमें बाकी हमें प्राप्त होते हैं। 60% हमें गवर्नमेंट से प्राप्त होता है, 40% हम खुद जनरेट करते हैं।
ठीक है। और आप जो हैं राजधानी शहर के महापौर हैं, इसमें कोई विशेष या प्रॉब्लम्स या अपॉर्चुनिटीज होते हैं क्या जब राजधानी के महापौर हैं? तो
देखिए, राजधानी के महापौर तो, क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि जितनी भी वो रहता है, जितनी भी चैलेंजेस होते हैं वो राजधानी पे ही होते हैं, क्योंकि आप अगर राजधानी में अगर कोई काम करेंगे तो इसका जो इफेक्ट है वो पूरे प्रदेश में जाएगा। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये यहाँ पर चैलेंज जरूर रहते हैं, मगर जब सरकार आपकी रहे, जब मुख्यमंत्री जी हमारे आदरणीय भूपेश बघेल जी हैं, जब सरकार में और लोकल बॉडीज में जब समन्वय रहे, जब दोनों में समानता रहे, और तब मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि काम करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी बहुत ज्यादा हो जाती है। इसके पहले भी हमारी यहाँ पर नगर निगम में गवर्नमेंट थी, मेयर कांग्रेस का था, मगर जो मुख्यमंत्री जी थे, जो सरकार थी, वो भारतीय जनता पार्टी की थी, मगर उसमें बहुत सारे काम हमारे नहीं हो पाए। हम बहुत सारी चीजों को लाते थे, बहुत सारी चीजों में हम विचार करते थे कि हम ये करेंगे, हम अच्छा ड्रेनेज सिस्टम लाएंगे, हम ट्रैफिक सिस्टम अच्छा करेंगे, हम गार्बेज सिस्टम लाएंगे, हम पूरे प्रदूषण रहित रायपुर शहर करेंगे, मगर मुझे ऐसा लगा कि हमें वो काम करने का मौका नहीं मिला जब भारतीय जनता पार्टी की सरकार थी। सरकार जब अलग अलग होती है, जब यहाँ पर सरकार रायपुर नगर निगम में भी सरकार अलग होती है और स्टेट में सरकार अलग होती है, तो वहां पर बहुत ज्यादा काम करने की तकलीफें आती है। मगर मुझे खुशी इस बात की है, मेरे लिए अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि मेरे साथ सरकार भी कांग्रेस की है, और जो लोकल जो बॉडी है नगर निगम में, वहां भी पर भी पूरे कांग्रेस की गवर्नमेंट बैठी है। तो काम करने का जो हम लोगों का वो है, हम जो जो चाहते थे, चाहे हम ड्रेनेज की बात करें या फिर हम ट्रैफिक सिस्टम की बात करें, हमारा ट्रैफिक सिस्टम भी यहाँ पर हम लोग बहुत अच्छा किए, ड्रेनेज की बात करें या हम ऑक्सीजोन की बात करें या हम लोग मल्टी लेवल पार्किंग की बात करें, मुझे खुशी इस बात की है कि आज मैं दावे से कह सकता हूं कि जो स्कूल हम लोग ने यहाँ पर बनाई है स्वामी आत्मानंद, हमने जो हिंदी स्कूल थी, जहां पर मात्र 5 से 10 बच्चों की उपस्थिति होती थी, हमारी सरकार ने उसे पूरे तरीके से इंग्लिश में कर दिया। आज वो स्कूल में एडमिशन के लिए 5 से 10 हजार आवेदन आ रहे हैं और वो स्कूलों में आज एडमिशन नहीं हो पा रहा है। ऐसी स्कूलों को हमने हिंदी से हमने इंग्लिश किया है। तो ऐसे काम हमारी गवर्नमेंट कर रही है। हमने अभी मुख्यमंत्री स्लम स्वास्थ्य योजना के तहत अभी हमने बसेस भी चालू की है, जो स्लम एरिया है, जहां पर लोगों को दवाइयों के लिए बहुत परेशानी होती थी। यह योजना हमारी बहुत पहले थी, मगर हो नहीं पाई थी क्योंकि सरकार भारतीय जनता पार्टी की थी। मैं अभी यहां पर दलगत राजनीति से ऊपर उठ के बात कर रहा हूं, एक मेयर के रूप में बात कर रहा हूं। जब वो थी, हमने उस योजना को हमने लाया था, मगर वो योजना हो नहीं पाई थी। मगर अभी हमारी जब सरकार है, माननीय मुख्यमंत्री जी की सरकार है, तो हमने एक मुख्यमंत्री स्लम स्वास्थ्य योजना की हमने एक बसेस चालू की है, जो पूरे शहर में 15 जगह, जहां जहां हमारे स्लम एरिया है, जहां जहां हमारे बहुत मजदूर लोग रहते हैं, वहां पर जाके फ्री में 41 टेस्ट कर रही है, फ्री में दवाइयां दे रही है। अभी हम लोग डायग्नोस्टिक सेंटर चालू कर रहे हैं रायपुर नगर निगम के द्वारा, जहां पर अगर आज हम लोग कोई भी चेकअप कराने जाते हैं या हमको टेस्ट कराने जाते हैं तो 6 से 7 हजार रुपया लगता है, मगर हम जो चालू करेंगे उसमें मात्र 1000-1500 रुपए में उसके पूरे टेस्ट हो जाएंगे। अभी हम जेनेटिक दवाइयां भी चालू कर रहे हैं। जेनेटिक दवाइयां से यह है कि आप जो दवाइयों का बिल आप लेने जाते हैं, वहां पर दवाइयों का बिल 2000-1500 बनता है। हम जेनेटिक दवाइयां से यह होगा कि लोगों को 100 रुपए, 150 रुपए, 200 रुपए में उनको दवाइयां मिल जाएगी। तो ये लगातार हमने स्वास्थ्य और शिक्षा, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि किसी भी स्टेट के डेवलपमेंट के लिए, किसी भी आप बोलोगे कि ये प्रगतिशील शहर है, यहां पर सब सुविधा है, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि शिक्षा और स्वास्थ्य, ये दोनों में लोकल बॉडी को भी, मगर लोकल बॉडी भी कब काम करेगी, जब आपकी सरकार रहेगी, जब आपकी सरकार आप ऊपर में रहेगी। तो मुझे ये सब काम करने की अपॉर्चुनिटी मिली। हमने शिक्षा में भी अच्छा काम किया, हमने स्वास्थ्य में भी अच्छा काम किया।
Thank you, Devar Saab. I'll come back to you in 1 minute. But Dr. Rao and Ms. Mahajan, there's a question that Mr. Devar raised, and this is really not about party politics at all, but the broader point that there is a sense that state governments are reluctant to give up power to local bodies, and the challenges become even greater when the state government and the local government are of different parties. So my question is, is this a fair observation, and why do you think this happens? Dr. Rao, would you go first? Dr. Rao, you're on mute.
It is a very complex question, and it is mostly localized, because it is a state subject, urban management, and it all depends on the level of urbanization of the state to focus on the urban sector. Because you understand that only 12 are the major urban states where there's more than 20% of the population is in urban areas. So their orientation, their perspective is always different than the perspective of the non-urban states. I don't say that they don't have an appreciation. They have appreciation, but a different thing. But I already mentioned that I have a statistics like Maharashtra devolved 12 functions, Arunachal Pradesh, Tamil Nadu 10 functions, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha 9 functions. Like 10 states have devolved more than 8 functions. My question was that how many of those functions also being utilized effectively by the local self-government? They asked,
That's
so it is a question of a mix of responsibilities at the local level and also state level, but constitution guaranteed 18 functions. So I think that is the ultimate thing to happen, and it should happen to the state governments. And can be pressure groups from the municipal systems, municipal functionaries, and also the civil society, so that more and more posts. But the only thing is, if you don't devolve finances, functionaries, giving only functions to the municipalities will be a counterproductive and it will be a big burden to the society and the people. So it has to go hand in hand simultaneously. That is what my view.
fair point. Ms. Mahajan, would you like to comment on this? And again, this is not a political comment or political question, because it is quite possible that you have a BJP local government with a state being run by a different party, right? So it's really more a question of how systematic these conversations are, how principles based they are, as opposed to personality based. So do you agree with Mayor Debar's comment that it becomes a
Uh,
little bit of a challenge when different parties run?
Honorable Mayor Debarji has put up his comment, which is absolutely fine. What he has put it, I don't even look at it politically because this is not a political forum. Or
Yes.
I would have had a political answer, and I don't think so. I think he's young, he's come from the ranks and reached here. He's doing a fabulous job. And if tomorrow, 2023, BJP will surely come back in power in Chhattisgarh, we will still help you to work together as a party and government. But most importantly, what Ejaz Bhai is saying, I am saying, Dr. Rao saying, Dr. Singh are saying, that's the same idea. There are local government and state government are from different parties. There are challenges together when we are working together. And I think in Maharashtra, we've always seen that Mumbai, Shiv Sena, BJP had local government together and Congress had maximum time holding the state. There were a lot of, as you called in Hindi, sangharsh. There is always a little bit of friction. But I think in democracy, this is the friction we have to speak out. This is the way we have to talk about it. There is nothing wrong. This is not politicizing. This is where we have to find a solution. Any government, we cannot have a party all over the country. There will be people deciding, they will be liking you and voting you, or they will be voting you out also. What I'm trying to say is, all of us want, we have enough. I'm not saying we don't have enough. Of course, we need more. As Honorable Rao Saab said, Rao Garu said, we dil mange more. But dil mange more ke pehle bhi, what we have to look at, what we have, utilizing what we have. We are actually more on wastages. The problem is the wastage is so much on a product that we really waste time in thinking about it. When the RFP of certain municipal corporation come up with a certain waste management project, it takes not months, it takes years to even conceptualize with the idea, work on it, then contractors, then making an effort, and then settling it. Any government coming and going. So administration, which has that power, needs to be also working together in tandem and go little more in speed. That also I have seen as a, let me put it as a politician also, that how we are talking about public and politician partnership, we need administrative officer and politician, the policy makers, their partnership together to make that impact. And that's very important. So I agree, sometimes there is always a friction of two governments because it's a state subject, every municipal corporation. But they are surviving, thriving, and trying their best with that fight in democracy also to make sure that people get what they actually deserve and what they want. That's our job. So वो कर्तव्य करना बहुत जरूरी है. वो एजाज भाई कर रहे हैं, पूनम महाजन कर रही है. हम सब वो कर्तव्य हमें उनको भी याद दिलाना और हमारा करना है. So which is already fine. But
Thank you.
2023 we will be back and then we will help you. It's my responsibility.
Thank you very much. I'm going to make a request to the panelists to be a little brief because I have lots of topics I want to cover. Okay, and we only have a little over. We have about 32 minutes for this panel. देवर साहब आपसे फाइनल सवाल मेरा ये है कि ऐसे 3 चेंजेस क्या होंगे जो आपको रायपुर नगर निगम में अपनी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज बढ़िया तरीके से निभाने के लिए मदद करेंगी?
ऐसे 3 चीज?
हाँ, 3 चीज, कोई भी बदलाव आ सके तो 3 चीज ऐसे क्या हैं जो आपके लिए बहुत फायदेमंद होगी आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज निभाने के लिए?
देखिए, एक तो जो सबसे बड़ा जो चैलेंज है, मैंने पहले ही इसको स्वीकार किया। एक तो हमारे यहाँ ट्रैफिक, सबसे बड़ा जो है ट्रैफिक को किस तरीके से मैं नियंत्रण करूं। दूसरा, मेरा जो नालियां है शहर में, जो मेरा ड्रेनेज सिस्टम है, उसको मैं किस तरीके से पूरे शहर में मैं पूरा तरीके से उसको मैं कवर्ड कर दूं, पूरे तरीके से मैं उसको किस तरीके से मैं उसको चारों तरफ पूरे शहर में जितनी भी नालियां ड्रेनेज सिस्टम मेरे बह रहे हैं उसको किस तरीके से मैं ढक दूं। दूसरा मेरा जो चैलेंज है, पहला मेरा किस तरीके से मैं शहर को जो हमारी ट्रैफिक सिस्टम है उसको किस तरीके से मैं इजी कर दूं। दूसरा मेरा जो इसको मैं कवर्ड कर दूं। और तीसरा जो मुझे ऐसा लगता है जो सबसे ज्यादा ये है कि मैं किस तरीके से जो मेरी स्कूलें हैं, जहां पर मैंने पहले कहा कि मैंने अभी 2 से 3 स्कूल को मैंने अभी चालू किया, मैं चाहता हूं जो मेरी गवर्नमेंट स्कूल्स हैं जहां पर मेरे बच्चे अभी पढ़ रहे हैं उनको मैं किस तरीके से ज्यादा फैसिलिटी अच्छी स्कूल बना के, क्योंकि मेरा ऐसा सोच है कि यदि हम इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर अच्छा देंगे, बिल्डिंग अच्छी देंगे, क्लासेस अच्छी देंगे, वहां पर लैब अच्छा देंगे तो बच्चे बहुत आएंगे। तो मेरा ये सोच है कि मैं गवर्नमेंट स्कूल जो छोटी छोटी स्कूल है उनको मैं किस तरीके से इंग्लिश में कन्वर्ट कर दूं, एक अच्छी स्कूल बना दूं। ऐसा मेरा 3 चैलेंज, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि 3 चैलेंज मैं कर लूंगा तो मुझे लगता है कि बहुत जो मेरा मेयर का जो वो है वो पूरा हो जाएगा।
शुक्रिया। मिस्टर सिंह, let me come to you. Would you describe the vision behind the mygov.in project in the context of participatory governance? What does the platform do and what happens if a suggestion is made on the platform?
See, MyGov, as you rightly described, is a citizen engagement platform which enables participatory governance. In democracy, as we always know, we have elected members from Raipur and Honorable MP Poonam Mahajanji from Mumbai with us today. So democracy is about government of the people, by the people, for the people. But how do people get involved in the policy making apart from voting during the elections? So what MyGov does is it gives you an opportunity to give your ideas and suggestions with regard to the various policies that the government makes. For example, when the new education policy was framed, the government went out and asked for suggestions, opinions of citizens. And we got like more than 15 lakh suggestions from them. For the union budget, every year when the union budget is formulated, we open up a portal on MyGov on which citizens give their suggestions with regard to what they want from the union budget. And then these suggestions are collated, analyzed, and shared with the finance ministry, and the finance ministry takes cognizance of that and includes some of the projects included. In fact, last year we got more than 40,000 suggestions, and of that, I believe around 94 of them were actually became a part of the union budget. Similarly, every month we have a Prime Minister's radio talk on the last Sunday of every month, Man Ki Baat. So for Man Ki Baat also, we get citizens' opinions with regard to various topics, and citizens give their suggestions. And then we also have an IVRS line to ensure digital inclusion is addressed, so that those people who don't have a smartphone or who don't have access to a website or a computer, they can dial up a number 1800117733. It's a toll-free number, and then they are able to record what they want from Honorable Prime Minister, what they want Honorable Prime Minister to talk about in Man Ki Baat. And we get almost thousands of calls every day, and these calls are transcribed, then analyzed, put into various buckets, whether they are about education, about healthcare, about jobs, about agriculture, and then they are shared with the Honorable Prime Minister's office, and some of it do find a mention in the Man Ki Baat broadcast. Right now, the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is going to start. This whole campaign is going on. So for that also, we are inviting suggestions from citizens. We are inviting suggestions for unsung heroes for the freedom movement. When TRAI comes up with new regulations, we invite suggestions from citizens. For textile policy, we have done consultations. We do a lot of policy consultations on MyGov. And similarly, when we look at cities, when the smart cities mission was launched. So there was a particular, I think, 10 to 20% weightage was given for citizen participation and crowdsourcing ideas and suggestions for their own cities when the plans for the smart cities were made up. So we had a crowdsourcing initiative on MyGov in which citizen suggestions were taken up. These suggestions were then shared with the concerned cities, and when the master plans for the smart cities were made, these suggestions were incorporated into that. What do the citizens want? Do they want a footpath, or do they want traffic lights, or do they want better garbage collection, or do they want traffic regulation, or do they want more parks, more entertainment places, more relaxation places, more cleanliness? So these kind of various suggestions do come from citizens. They become part of the policy making. So MyGov facilitates that, and it helps in getting citizens involved with the governance process, and to a large extent it helps in addressing the grievances that people may have later on. और जो एक कहावत होती है कि कोई नहीं सुनता सरकार में, that gets addressed to a great extent. Yes, if you have anything to contribute, if you have any ideas, suggestions that you want for any government department, you are most welcome to come on mygov.in and share it with there. And of course, MyGov also does a lot of information dissemination, because there is a lot of problems that we face in this country because of people not being aware of various things. And government communications, with due regard to our colleagues in PIB and all, sometimes we use so much of bureaucracies that it doesn't transmit well, that doesn't communicate well. People are not able to understand the way it's written. So that's done primarily because they are done as per the laws, as per the requirements of the. So we demystify that communication. We try to make it in infographics. We try to make it into charts. We might make it with short videos, bulleted points, highlighting what is required. And then we share where citizens are. We share on Instagram, we share on Twitter, we share on Facebook. We have short YouTube videos. So that enables better communications. So MyGov, in short, does two things. One, crowdsourcing ideas involving citizens in the policy formulation. And second, sharing what the government is doing in an easily understandable, comprehensible form to the citizens for better communication. It's a two-way communication between citizens and government.
Perfect. So
Just
how
to-
much of...
Mahesh, just to supplement Abhishek, and not only this is a effective platform for the suggestions, but now it is a compulsory. Honorable MP is aware, Poonamji, that before making any public policy, you have to keep this for 3 to 4 weeks for public consultation, asking for suggestions across the country, so that these suggestions can feed into the policy making and also the policy development. It is a compulsory thing for the people to get an opportunity to participate in the governance. This is a very major revolutionary initiative.
That is a revolutionary change. Mr. Singh, question: is this more between the citizens and the central government, or do you see similar initiatives between the cities and the state governments and cities and local bodies?
See, we have enabled the platform is like offered as a platform as a service model, and the way we have done is that we have created state instances also. Like we have 14 states onboarded on it. So there is a MyGov India, and then there is a MyGov Maharashtra, there is a MyGov Assam, there is a MyGov Uttar Pradesh, there is a MyGov Chhattisgarh, MyGov Madhya Pradesh. So there are 14 states which have been onboarded on it, and the way we have done it is that any city, if they also want to use of the platform, we will offer it as a service, and we can create a MyGov instance for, say, Mumbai. So Mumbai Municipal Corporation or the if it's Hyderabad, the Greater Hyderabad Municipal Corporation can interact with the citizens and get ideas with regard to what they want from their citizens, and have it an interactive two-way communication. So the platform exists. We are following it up with the states and the cities regularly so that in case they want to build up, we will set up the portal for them without any cost. We will host it. They just need to have people to ensure that site is updated. The website setting is not a problem. Ensuring that the data and information is updated all the time, and ensuring that whatever suggestions are coming from citizens somebody is reading them and actioning on them. That becomes the more important part. So that responsibility the states or the cities will have to take. But yes, the technology platform exists and it can be used.